Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. There's a plan in place. And, let me back up. Justice Barrett now on the Supreme Court changes things, changes the balance. Last year, the Supreme Court turned down 10 gun rights cases, would not accept them. Thinking was, those on the court who wanted it couldn't depend upon Chief Justice Roberts. That balance has changed now, and so the plan is let's get some cases going there so we get some precedent set and shore up some things. Joining me right now to talk about that plan and what's going on with a most recent case out of New Jersey, Adam Kraut joins us. He is a gun rights attorney licensed before the United States Supreme Court as well as a lot of other places. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Tom. How are you?
I am well. So how did I do with that synopsis? Last year we got turned down on 10 different gun rights cases, and now we have a different court.
Correct. Yeah. No, I think you did pretty good on that.
Okay. So what's the plan?
Well, I don't know if I want to show my whole hand here, but
you don't have to. Just give us a peek at least.
Sure. Yeah. As you guys might be noticing, we at FPC, along with the Second Amendment Foundation and some various local groups, have been starting to file a lot of lawsuits challenging a variety of areas that we expect, and we're hopeful that the Supreme Court will take up and start giving us some decisions on. As you probably caught on, one of those areas is, carry outside of the home, because that seems to be an area where there is a lot of dispute as to whether or not, from certain people anyway, there's some dispute as to whether or not the Second Amendment actually protects that.
It seems weird to us to think the Second Amendment would not protect carry outside the home, but of course the wording in the Heller decision has given at least an opening for those who say, oh, no, that was only for inside the home. It didn't actually say that. But if you squint hard and you want to slant things that way, you can make a weak case for that. So I guess what we're trying to do is get some more decisions that shore up what it really means.
Yes, in part, and we're also trying to get the court to address some of the various just topical areas on their face. To some extent that does include, dissecting what Heller says maybe a little more clearly in areas where there's some dispute as to what it says. But I would point out, and, as our complaint, clearly illustrates, Heller does talk about what there is, and that's the, carry in case of confrontation. And that certainly would extend to outside the home because, let's face it, confrontations do exist outside of the home. And the right to self-defense is a natural pre-existing right. Why on earth would that be limited to just solely with inside your house? So
what exactly is this case you filed in New Jersey?
So the New Jersey case challenges two things. It challenges, the real basic form is it challenges the criminal statutes, because in New Jersey and some other states for that matter, but particularly New Jersey, it's unlawful to carry a firearm outside of the home without a permit, and that's under pain of criminal penalty. So there's really two ways you can skin a cat in theory. One is you have the criminal statutes declared invalid and unconstitutional, and then the permit requirement doesn't matter. Alternatively, New Jersey also requires with its permits a statement from the individual seeking a permit as to the reason they need it. And the courts have said repeatedly in New Jersey that self-defense is not acceptable. It's an incredibly subjective standard. It's a very high bar for people to meet, and let's face it, most people are just precluded outright on their face from it. So the other option would be then for the court to strike down this subjective standard that people, seemingly can't meet, and then it would require that the permits be issued. The criminal statutes would then, in theory, still stay, so it would just be a matter of now you need to apply for a permit, and you would be able to carry outside of the home.
So in New Jersey, they want you to state why you need to carry a gun outside of the home. And self-defense, protecting yourself and your family, is not good enough. I gather that maybe if you carried a whole lot of cash, that would be a factor? I mean, it's like we're going to protect money more than our lives?
Yeah, unfortunately, that is one of the things that they do look for. And those, if you look, even the security guards and armed guards for armored cars still have to apply for the permit and provide a reason for it. And unfortunately, it seems that cash is one of those factors that they look to and might actually grant a permit for, rather than just simply, even people who have had documented threats have been denied permits.
Oh, right. Yeah. They say, well, the threat is documented, but it's not exactly immediate. He's not banging on your door as you are applying for this. This is going to sound weird. Are there other constitutional rights that you have to apply for and provide justification before you can exercise them?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, the closest parallel off the top of my head that I could potentially draw, and I don't even think it's at all related, would be something along the lines of the First Amendment context, where you need to acquire a permit to hold a gathering in a public area, but they're not even relatable, because you look at the criteria for that in time, places, and manners restrictions. It strikes me that this is a very far outlier from any other constitutional right that we talk about. And the justifiable need standard in New Jersey, I was blanking on it earlier, it's called justifiable need, is, as I said earlier, an incredibly subjective standard where the individual is really at the mercy of two different authorities. They either have to apply with the chief of police if they live in a township or a district where the local police are the ones who control, or they have to apply to the state police. And that's just the first layer. Ultimately, it's the Superior Court of New Jersey that decides whether or not the permit should be issued. So even if the chief of police or the state police say, yes, you can get this permit, it's up to the judge, and the judges almost always deny these permits.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that this is a case from the Second Amendment Foundation and the Firearms Policy Coalition, FPC. And these two gun rights groups are actually working together, and then often working with state organizations in the states they're working with to move forward. Are we in a situation where it's ripe for us to move forward on a lot of these because of the makeup of the Supreme Court?
That's my analysis of the field is it's a good time to start looking at issues that are out there and determining which ones might be favorable for the court to take up. Obviously, some pills are easier to swallow than others. So, for instance, something like carry outside the home, when you juxtapose that to Heller versus saying going and outright attacking the NFA and saying that, machine guns are constitutionally protected, you could certainly bring the lawsuit. I think I know, as far as the courts and the way that they're going to look at things, which one stands a better chance of getting a favorable decision.
There's strategy involved, and I mean, I get to occasionally hang around with you really smart Second Amendment lawyers, and you're actually civil rights lawyers in this, because there's a strategy and a building block system that goes into all of this. And I mean, just my take, and I understand there's things you can't say, but I think the time is right, and we need to be moving forward. I'm really glad to see that we are. Adam, how do people keep up with what you're doing? Because I know that you do use social media, and you do appear a lot of places.
Sure. Are you asking about me specifically, or
yes,
more FPC?
More you right now.
Sure. So you can, on Twitter, at Facebook and Instagram, it would be at the Adam Kraut. And that's just because Adam Kraut was taken, so I had to do something to kind of set myself off. So any of those would be a good place to follow. And, I try to provide updates as to what we're up to at FPC and, what we're cooking up with other groups.
Very good. We'll do that. And for those who are trying to spell this, it's Kraut, Adam Kraut.
Like sauerkraut.
Like sauerkraut. There you go. Well, look, if you would, please keep us posted, because I know that there are more things coming, that, as I say, more in the pipeline. And just thank you for everything you're doing. I mean, you are a gun rights guy. You're a gun guy first before you were a gun rights guy. You're a shooter, Eagle Scout, NFA guy, and everything else. So you come to this, as we say, honestly.
Yeah, I would like to think so.
Adam, again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.